Okay, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rahul. Okay, we can get started. In that case, okay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Great. Okay, so far, I mean, we have studied different techniques in information retrieval, so that for a given query, basically you get a list of documents, and often these documents are independent to each other, right? So far, I mean, given a query, you somehow apply the different uh, ranking algorithm that you have studied, and accordingly you compute the score and give the rank list of documents. So is it the correct assumption that all the documents are independent to each other, especially in information retrieval?
No, sir.
Okay, so in that case, what can be done? So probably the one possibility could be, can we see the linkage, can we see the linkage between different pages, and these linkage basically help you in determining whether the two pages are similar, related or not, right? So in a way, in case of information retrieval, we need to use some kind of link analysis in order to get the you can say the correct, or probably the uh, better documents for a given query. So again, it is not only one factor, it is one such factor. Definitely, whatever the similarity and all ranking method we have studied remains, I mean, useful. So this will be the additional component which will be the information retrieval based technique use, the companies use to get you the most relevant document for a given query. So are you aware of any link analysis based algorithm?
So, Hubsan authorities. It's
Yes, could you
Sir Hubsan authorities. Hits algorithm.
hits? Okay, okay, very nice. Apart from hits, any other algorithm are you aware of?
PageRank.
Very nice. Yeah, so PageRank hits, these are the two very popular algorithms and being used at least for some time by the different companies. Anybody know? I mean, which company invented PageRank?
So Google.
Yeah,
Google.
very nice. Very nice. Yeah, so by the way, the PageRank patent now expired, right? So it's kind of, but I mean, the PageRank is something which has changed the Google's, you can say the feed, right? I mean, that has helped the Google to come up with a giant leader in the web search. But anyways, I mean, now they have even more sophisticated algorithms, and so, but at least this is something what they have proposed. Like, okay, so you also need to leverage the different connection between the different pages on the web, and accordingly, you need to give the ranked list of document for a given query. Okay, so today we'll be talking about hypertext linking, and we need to see whether uh, when some document basically hyperlink to another document, how it can be leveraged. So we need to address questions like, do the links present in conferral of authority to some pages, is that useful for ranking? How likely is that the page pointed by a CERN home? CERN is probably, you can say, one of the very popular or very reputed website for scientific research, basically point you to some website. So in that case, I mean, it's kind of indicating, if some good pages or well-known pages point you, it means the page it pointing to should also be, may also be a very good page. So overall this overall this link analysis is based on this hypothesis, like if the different pages are connected to each other, so if some very well known or good page point to some page, it would also be a good page. Similarly, if some page basically pointing to a bad page, basically some page is pointing to a bad page, it may also be the bad page, something like that. So there are several big areas of application you can think of. The web is one of the good example. In the email as well, for example, you can think of about the spamming. Similarly, in the social network, so there are the people who are troller, I mean, probably just they are paid user or something. How can you find out such people and so on? So links are basically very useful. So it's a powerful source of authenticity and probably the authority. So regarding the mail, as we discussed, so which email accounts are spammers, similarly the quality, how good the probably the host page is, phone call logs, and so on. So the hypothesis is the good, the bad, and probably the unknown. So the web, on the web, basically the different pages which are connected to each other. In some page, you know, I mean, these are good. For example, the certain page I mentioned is well known. Similarly, IBM.com is something which is well known. IIITD.com is probably well known, and so on. Right. So they are good pages. Bad pages, I mean, we don't know. I mean, we know. I mean, these are probably some bad pages like spammer or probably some porn website or something else, right? So they could be the bad pages. So how about the, I mean, the pages which you don't know the status? Can we determine the status based on the whatever the known good and bad pages? Anyone? Suppose we have to determine. Suppose we have to determine the quality of these pages. Then can we determine that?
So if the page is pointed to by many good sources, then we can consider it to be a good page. Or if it's
Exactly.
pointed to be many bad sources. So basically we can
Exactly.
aggregate.
Exactly. Similarly, like this one. So these are good pages, right? And this page is pointed by two good pages. So definitely it seems like this will be a good page, right? And how about the others? What do you think about others?
If multiple bad pages are pointing to this unknown, then we can consider this as a wet page.
Mhm. So the example is like, yeah, so good notes hypothesis is good notes won't point to a bad one, right? So if this would have been a good page, I believe it shouldn't have pointed to this, right? So in a way, this would be a probably a bad page. Okay. So similarly, if you point to a bad page, it means you are bad. So this is what I was referring. So if a good node points to you, it means you are good. So it's the same thing basically. I was simple hypothesis which I'm saying. So in that case, since this page is pointed by two good page, so it's a good page. So this page was basically pointing to a bad page. So this will be a bad page. Similarly, this one would be a bad page because it is pointing to a bad page. So this would be a bad page. And this is since it is pointed by basically a good page, so it becomes a good page. So basically, this helps you because the page rank or probably hits or probably whatever the link analysis that you are going to apply. So that depends on what are the quality pages you are considering into the consideration, because we cannot, in fact we should not consider all pages. We should only consider the pages which are having the good quality. Again, so you can define the quality in different ways, but the overall idea is just to consider the good quality pages. So one metric we are considering if it is in it is adjacent to, it is basically pointed by a number of good pages. Similarly, you can probably compute some probabilistic analogs and that help you in mail spamming and probably others. So this is the visualization. I mean, how the number of pages and probably the in degrees mean. I mean, for a given page, how many pages basically point to it, right? So if some pages have very high in degree, and probably it is not following the power law. So power law is basically so given two quantity, I mean given two page or probably two items, you can say, if you are changing something in one, probably in the same quantity, proportional quantity, it should be changed in others, other element that you have. So that is the power law. So kind of following, if the usually, I mean the pages and probably the n degree is followed by that. But if something is not following, it might be some, you can think of some, it may be probably some violators. So that may be like in case of emails, it might be the spammers. Similarly, in case of others. So for, have you seen, I mean, in case of web pages, how, what kind of spamming happens? Like in case of emails, you know, I mean, there are just advertisement or probably such there is mass email or something happen. How does it happen in case of web pages?
Sir, many unknown pop-up will come, like pop-up will come, and it is redirected to another website and so on.
Okay.
Like you
Else?
have been, like a web page will come that you have been a lottery of 50 lakhs and so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. Any other example anybody would like to highlight?
Sir, fake links are there most of the times. For a file download, there are a lot of download means links, but none of them actually work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
those kind of things are also.
Right. Okay, so nice. So basically, there are many other examples of link analysis. So social networks are kind of resource of grouping behavior. Similarly, so basically, the paper by Goel and Goldstein. So basically, that is about the software's affinity. So it basically discusses consumer whose friends spend a lot themselves. It's more like uh, a person is known by his company, right? So if most of my friends shop a lot, it likely that I will also probably do a lot of shopping. Again, it's again related to affinity, based on the affinity method they are showing. So that is about the shopping, and similar analogy can be applied to other areas. So that is like, for example, if most of my friends are supporting a party A, they are spreading a lot of content or probably the post related to supporting party A. It likely that I probably follow the same, or probably likely that I will also do the same, right? So for more details, yeah, so you can check this paper, but this gives some analogy and probably so whatever the natural intuition we have, so they have shown this through their paper. So our primary interest in this course is like how we can use link analysis in IR functionality so far that we have studied. So the kind of it's basically one addition to whatever the IR features that you have, IR features and the method you have studied so far, right? So we need to add the another component using the link analysis, which overall improve the scoring and ranking functions that we have so far. So basically, it basically help you in link-based clustering, links as a feature in classification, and so on. So you can think as a there's basically a page, anchor page, basically which is having hyperlink to the page B. So often when you create the hyperlink, so how in HTML how do you write how do you create hyperlink? Anyone? In case of HTML, how do you create the hyperlink?
Using the href attribute.
Yeah,
The anchor tag.
and that is behind which tag?
Anchor tag.
Anchor tag, right? So A, like A, and
yeah,
then href the URL and probably the whatever the text, and you do, right? So often this anchor text, so when you are doing the hyperlink, you also give the anchor text. So do you think this anchor text will be useful in determining, I mean, what this is indicating to? So they propose two hypotheses. First is hyperlink between the pages. Hyperlink between the pages denotes the conferral of authority. So basically, it is authorizing. Okay, so if this is a good page, it is kind of authorizing. Okay, so this also be a good page. Similarly, if it is a bad page, it is connecting to probably directing to something else. So accordingly, you can think of what can be done and so on. So second hypothesis is the text in the anchor of hyperlink. So that is when you are using the anchor tag and probably write the text. So the text in the anchor tag of hyperlink on the page, it describes the target page view, right? So often you do, how do you write? So in the anchor tag you write, okay, so so for example, the biggest social media company, and then you provide the hyperlink of, say, for example, Facebook or something, right? Accordingly, so you are giving an indication, okay, you are describing the target, one of the bigger or biggest, whatever, the social media page you are referring to. So these are also useful when you are basically doing indexing, when you are doing basically computing the score, can be helpful. So this is the example you can think of. So here basically, so this is the book, I mean, which we are following, and in that case, this is the course website. In the course website, they have different hyperlinks, like Christopher D. Manning. So basically, yeah, so this hyperlink will go to the page of Manning, and this is the anchor text giving you the information what it is referring to. Similarly, the same for University of Surgurd, probably the other things you can have. And also, this help you in the annotation of the target. So for example, this is a website. Which language is this, anyone?
Japanese.
Japanese.
Chinese.
Okay. Honestly, I also don't know which language is that, but I believe it's a Japanese. But yeah, okay. So yeah, so here basically you are providing an hyperlink and doing the annotation which help you in understanding. So right now, whatever the language is selected here, you are providing an annotation of the target. So what if you'll click this? So I believe you can assume what you are going to have. You are going to have the English version of this website, right? Yeah, so it was Japanese, by the way. Yeah, you're right. Right. So basically, you see, I mean, you are basically moved or created the hyperlink from one page to another, and accordingly you show the all the details. So these annotation which also help you in providing more details about the target page. So when we are dealing with the anchor text again, so the target page don't have any control how the different website is going to use the anchor text. For example, this is the website ibm.com. Different people can use different hypertext, right? Some people can mention as anchor text IBM homepage. Some people can write ibm.com. Some people write IBM. Some people even can write it's the company's nickname. Anybody know what is the IBM's nickname?
Indian business machine.
No. So IBM nickname kind of very popular one. Anyone? So IBM is also known as Big Blue. So some people can also write like Big Blue and then and like. So similarly, I mean, even I mean the some website, probably the bad website, may even the completed website that can name use anchor text which may be totally wrong. So for example, worst company, right? Some company, because probably there are some customer, right, who are not satisfied with your for example IBM, right? In that case they can write worst company and then probably they hyperlink to IBM. So in a way you don't have any control over how the different anchor text has been done. But at least still based on the hypothesis, most of the people going to use in correct way. So in this way you have million piece of anchor text with IBM, and which sends a kind of strong signal, I mean, how good this website is, and probably what are the keywords, what are the names, I mean, you need to consider when someone is doing query. So in a way you can also treat it like if someone is searching for IBM homepage, so it can be treated as a query, right? So if this is the query, then probably this website is the answer. If this is the query, then probably this website is an answer. In a way, I mean, these help you in getting a strong signal how good this particular website is. and also getting the quality of the page. So when indexing a document D, so you can also index the anchor text, right? Because using anchor text you can find the corresponding pages, as I said right here. So for example, if someone is writing IBM homepage, it will basically reach to the IBM.com. So these these basically the indexing of the anchor text will also lead you to the correct pages. So when indexing a document D, includes some weight. Again, so include some weight anchor text and perhaps nearby surrounding text from links pointing to. So it's all about like because as I said, you don't have much control over what anchor text the other websites are using. In that case, we need to have some kind of weighting mechanism through which you can understand, okay, so which probably the anchor text is good, which is bad, and accordingly it can basically get you the website. So like in this case, you have IBM.com. So this is one of the website which is hyperlinking to IBM. So this is another. So Big Blue I was referring to. So Big Blue today announced record profit for the quarter, and accordingly you can give the weights and you can basically index them. So
Sir,
yeah.
so just a doubt. For example, they are talking about links and all. But so many blogs and all, they have very various advertisements
Mhm.
over there that are means means they are getting paid for it. So
Mhm.
they have put on those advertisements. So does those advertisements also count as in this in the anchor text or in the hyperlink link
Just
analysis
think,
specifically?
no, it is hyperlink, but just think it that way, right? So if there is an advertisement and probably this advertisement is again, so probably I'm sure the Google might be dealing advertisement differently, but just think in that way. If the advertisement just treat as a bad page, if so many people are putting that advertisement that is pointing to bad news, so that make this particular page itself a bad page, right? So in a way that will affect your quality. So that's why you, and also over the time you see, if a page uh, having so many advertisement, right? So in a way, not all, in a way, it is reducing your quality, right? In a way, it's reducing your quality.
So like I was referring to the Google AdWords and all, which are dynamic, which are basically personalized
Mhm.
for the user. So those kind of, so how does they impact this link analysis, or do they impact?
I believe they impact, but right now the link analysis which we are doing is more static.
Okay.
Static in a sense. These are statically computed priorly, right? So that's why the page rank, they don't compute like every hour or every query. So they update the page rank or probably other link analysis based code on a say daily basis or probably weekly basis or something.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So can can score anchor text with the weight depend on the authority of the anchor page? So I believe, yeah, because it depends on how the page is, right? So for example, if we assume that the content from CNN.com or Yahoo.com is authoritative, then probably we should trust more these anchor texts as compared to probably others. So increase the weight of off-site anchor, so non-nepotistic scoring. So it's more about nepotism, you heard of, right? So this is something you can think here. So for example, you also need to increase the weight of your off-site pages rather than only your pages. If some pages are kind of authoritative, or as well as you can say off-site, you can also increase the weight for them in order to have the diversity, have the probably other pages as well. So connecting servers, so getting at all the links information inexpensively. So I believe I've given at least the background how the different pages, hyperlink, and all those are connected, useful. So let's go probably deeper into the link analysis. So when you are connecting server, right? So we need to support fast queries on the web graph. So in that case, we have to look at which URLs point to a given URL. We also need to look at which URL does a given URLs point to, right? So both will be helpful to you in when you are doing the retrieval, when you are basically addressing the queries. So what you can do, you can store these mapping somewhere, probably in the memory. So URL to outlinks. So like this URL, what all the other URLs or probably the website it's pointing to, and URL to inlinks, right? So like this particular URL is pointed by what all the pages we have. So this help you in like in link analysis, web graph analysis, crawl control, and so on. So Boldy and Vigna is basically a very popular paper. So many of the slides of this particular class now will be a part of this paper. So you can refer to this paper for greater details. So they have proposed the kind of set of algorithms and the Java implementation. So the fundamental goal they try to have maintain the node adjacency list in the memory, right? So you can think of maintaining the node adjacency in the memory, since you want, because why do you want to keep in memory? So that you can respond to the given query immediately, right? Very fast. But can you fit this node adjacency in the memory? So for example, you have 1 million pages. If you're going to create the node adjacency for 1 million pages, can you maintain that? Can you keep that? Not, right? It's not that feasible. In that case, you need to do some kind of compression. So for this, the compressing the adjacency list is the critical component. So in this paper, they have proposed how you can basically compress this node adjacency list. So when I say the again node adjacency, I mainly referring to this connectivity, like which all the pages is pointing to, what all the pages are pointing to me, and so on. Because in a way, these are going to help you in the link analysis and will give you the score for different pages, which will tell you the quality of different pages. So so we are going to study the page rank, we are going to study the hits, which is basically the indication of the quality of pages that you have. So adjacency list is very similar to other adjacency lists that you studied before. So in this case, you have set of neighbors of a node. Assume each URL is represented by an integer. So suppose if you're representing each URL as an integer, like by some number, since you have 4 billion pages, so you will be needing the 32 bits won't be enough, right? In that case, probably you need to have 64 bits. If you're going to have 64 bits to represent each hyperlink, and in this way, now you have 4 billion pages, this adjacency list is not possible to fit in the memory, right? In that case, what can be done? So as I said, Boldy and Vigna, what they have done, they proposed a compression technique to compress the adjacency list. And how they have done so? They are able to achieve on average of 3 bits per link, just 3 links. If you're going to save naively, in that case, you can think of it 64 bits. So now they reduce to 3 bits, and further work, after this, they are able to achieve 2 bits per link to save. So in this way, you are able to compress the adjacency list significantly, and you can basically probably fit in the memory and get it done, get the basically the different computation very fast. So how you can do the adjacency list compression? So it basically exploited similarity between the lists, because it might be the case some lists are similar, right? It also be the one of the key point is locality. So because many links from a page go to the nearby pages. So for example, on the IBM website, there are a number of sub pages, right? So for example, from IBM, you can go to the product, you can go to the whatever, like, and so on. So in a way, it also basically go to the nearby pages. Again, it is not only limited to that page. It could also probably go to the, for example, from IBM, probably you may go to the Dell or so. So what they have proposed the gap encoding in the sorted list. So basically consider the distribution of the gap values in order to you know, in order to encode the adjacency list, what are the pages it is connected to and so on. Any intuition that you have, any guess you have how this gap encoding work? Anyone? From the name it's clear. So gap is when, so rather than storing every number, how about you just save the gaps? That is how many gaps are there from one page to another. So I'll show you with example. So the main idea is you have the lexicographically ordered list of all URLs. So for example, you have Stanford, this is the base URL, and these are the further pages: alchemy, biology, biology plant, chemistry, and so on. Since you have the sorted list, so each of this list has an adjacency list. So main idea is due to the template, the adjacency list of a node is similar to the one of the 7 preceding URLs. At least here you can see here. So in a lexicographical order, or else encoded a new. So how about in this case? So suppose you express the adjacency list in terms of one of those. So for example, for first one you have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. So in this way you have the adjacency list for 4. For example, look at this. Can you encode this list, this adjacency list, with the help of previous list that you have? Anyways, can you see any similarity between the other list that you have? How about this list and probably the second list that you have?
Only 8 is changed by one integer.
So only this is changed, right? So 8 and 9. So can you encode this like this? Encode is like the list 2 that you have, and remove 9 and probably add 8. That's it. So in this way, probably you do not need to store whole adjacency list, but probably you can take benefit of previous list that you have. So regarding gap encoding, which I was referring, so gap encoding basically work in this way. So given a sorted list of integer x, y, z, and probably you can refer to this x, y, z, and so on. So this is represented by, and since it is in sorted list, so I mean y will be greater than x, z will be greater than y, and so on. So this list will be now represented by, you can keep the first item as it is, and remaining you just save the gaps. I will say the difference. So for example, in this gap, the gap is y minus x. Between these two, the gap is z minus y. So in this way, you can save in this way, x, y minus x, z minus. So now instead of storing very large documents, very large number of, I mean the integer, for example, referring to integer. So you don't have to save the very large integers. Now you can just save, you can say the small gaps. So let me show you one example. So you can refer to this, right? So so for example, you can apply this to posting file completion, right? So originally for the computer term, the posting list is like this. The numbers are quite high because now it is small, but it could be even bigger than this, because you might have, as I said, like 4 billion of probably even more number of documents. So for example, in this case, the first document is this, the next document is this, and so on. If you're going to save all those, I mean, it will take more space. As we have discussed, we need to do some comparison. So what they have proposed, just store the first one and store the gaps. So for example, in this case, after 047, the gap is 107. So the next number will be, just add 107 to this and you'll get this one. Similarly, the next gap is 5. So since the previous number was this, just add 5 to this and you'll get it. So in this way, you can apply this. In this way, you can do the comparison. And very similar, and I would say not very similar, but at least the similar idea is there in the way you compress the images. I mean, even since it is images, later on you can apply to the videos as well, where basically instead of storing the original value, the people store the difference, because the difference are usually small in number, small in size, and in this way you can achieve the compression, and while decoding you just keep adding the difference to the previous value, and you will achieve the actual number. So in this way, basically you can see here they use gamma code, they use delta code, and probably they use zeta code. In this way they are able to achieve a number of bits are basically 1 or 2 and so on. So like 2 or 3 and so on. Like in this case it would be around 2, it would be around 3 and so on, and they are able to basically achieve the compression for the different code that you have. So this particular work has been, as I said, published in the Data Compression Conference, and very popular work. So they try to follow the power law which we have discussed earlier. So the main advantage of this particular work, so it depends only on the locality in a canonical order. So lexicographic ordering basically works well for the web, because all the website URL you can store in that format. So adjacency queries can be answered very efficiently, because to fetch out numbers, trace back the chain of prototypes that you have. Chain is typically short of practice and can explicitly limit the length of the chain during the encoding. So whatever the chain that you have, whatever the adjacency you have, you can simply look at that and get it done. So in a way, you can implement this in one pass algorithm and get the neighbors or similar pages for that. So let's go into the PageRank algorithm now. So given the previous background, the link analysis, the PageRank is one of the link analysis based algorithm, which help you to determine the quality of the pages. So let's see how it works. So it very much dependent on the way citation analysis works. So the way in case of citing research papers or something, right? So what does the citation refer? What does the citation indicates? Anyone? Anyone? What does the citation refers?
Like if the citation is K, it means that K papers are referred K times.
Okay, so for example, let me open my Google Scholar. So here you can see some values, right? So citation, H index, I10 index. What does the citation indicates? Like 1484, for example, is my citation.
So these many other papers have cited to a paper that was written by you.
Yeah, very nice. And how about H index?
Sir, earlier I told about batch index. Like no, K pages are referred K times, then the H index will be K.
So does this indicate so for example, what does the 23 indicate here?
23 papers are referred cited 23 times.
Exactly. So at least 23 of my papers are cited by at least 23 of times. So usually, I mean, and I10 index, I believe it's very simple, right? So these many papers at least cited by 10 papers, right? So these are the metrics and probably some indication which believe you that, okay, so which paper is doing well. So for example, if you see here, 67 paper have cited this my paper, and probably I might have also cited probably so many papers, right? So for example, if I open this page, I mean in this paper, probably I have cited 35 papers, right? So 35 paper I have cited, and probably 67 paper cited myself. In a way, there is a close connection the way linkage is created, right? So when the linkage is created, you can think in that way. Can you use this linkages, like which are the pages citing me, which are the paper I've cited to, can help them in getting the quality of the paper, right? So something similar, they have followed the analogy and they try to propose the page rank. So since what is the one key difference you can see here? I mean, the very similar analogy we want to apply in the page rank link analysis. But can you tell me one major difference, or one major probably difference, the way citation or probably the linkages work in publication, the research paper as compared to in the web pages. Anyone?
So it could just be one way, not always like it's not necessary like uh, basically like in pages there is a chance that pages may
No,
be
so
only
that
like reference.
no, so that can happen. That can happen in the research paper as well, right? For example, there are many of my paper. Probably if you go, let me show you. For example, my recent paper, right? So if I just go by year, if I go to the research paper, right? So these are my 2021 papers. So these are very recent. Despite these are very good, right? IEEE transaction in multimedia, right? 44th ASEAN conference of web search and wisdom, that is wisdom. So these are core star conference. Similarly, this one journal, it's one of the best medical conference, Jamia. So these are right now. I mean, it's just one way, right? I mean, I have cited number paper, but no one has cited it. Probably because I am the new page, I am the new entry. So that's not the major difference. What are the other major difference you can see? The major difference, I believe, you can see here the quality. I mean, you can say that anyone can hyperlink any page, right? Even the bad page, good page, or whatsoever. In the case of research paper, at least the some quality is controlled, right? Some quality is maintained. So for example, despite my paper I just shown you, don't have any citation, no one has cited me, but since it has published to probably through the whatever the process and so on, in a way that can be viewed as the quality is somehow controlled. So in this case, since you have millions of participants, each with probably self-interest, spamming, and whatever, all those, it's sometimes like it grew the spamming, right? And which is a bit difficult to control in case of the normal website link analysis that we can do. So that is the major difference, at least you can see here. So how you can compute the page ranking score? So imagine, so here basically the idea is, so imagine a user is doing a random walk. So it basically depends on how for a given page you do a random walk to all other web pages and so on. So like in this case, for example, you have some start with some random page, and in this particular page there is 3 hyperlinks. So using random walk, you can go to any of these, right? So there is with probability 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? So at each step, you go out to the current page along one of the links on that page and probably equip properly, so that given the 3 hyperlinks, you can go to any. So in the long run, each page has long-term visit rate, and this is something you can think as the page score, that is the page rank will be computing. So how you can do so? Again, so there is a different variant to this. So rather than equiprobable, you can think of probably the uh, weight or something, some different. So for example, use the text and the link information to have the probability of the following link, right? And so on. Similarly, so Niskars has asked, right? So for example, there is some advertisement. Again, so advertisement can be static as well as dynamic. So if it's a static advertisement, right? In that case, there is, I believe it's a less probable that people will visit that as compared to probably some link which are providing the information which is relevant to that, right? So just think in that way. So here basically the idea is how we do some random walk over the different pages and probably get some score for that. So as part of uh, page rank, we are going to compute that. Are you aware of any methods through which you can do the random walk and probably get the probability and get the score? How you can do so? Anyone?
Have a probability like start with uniform probability and then multiply by like basically like a transition matrix
Very nice.
paying like
Very nice. And what does it call? I mean, so yeah, so
iteration some
exactly, we are going to do very similar. So you are very right in that sense. So let me show you. So again, so web is full of dead ends. So for example, here we are giving example like, so you have this page, it has 3 hyperlinks, and then basically you can go to any with some probability. But it can also be the case, like in this case, dead end. So you reach to this page and this page don't have any hyperlink. In that case, what will happen?
The scores might get like accumulated at that one node or the series of nodes like where there was a dead end.
No, this accumulation is fine, but I'm saying after reaching to this page, so now there is no additional pages there. So for example, it's kind of dead end, I'm saying. So now this particular page don't have any further hyperlink. Then what is, how do you in that case compute the long-term visit rate? Because in a way, we are, as part of the page rank, we are willing to compute this long-term visit rate, which is in a sense will give you the page rank of the score, so get a kind of quality of the page. But since many pages are dead ends, how you can do so? So one possibility could be you can randomly choose to any other page, right? And that randomly moving to other page is you can call it transporting, right? Teleporting, not transporting, teleporting. So at a dead end, you jump to some random page. And what are the criteria you can use to jump to a random page? Anyone?
We can have some like probability, like
Yeah, so
random.
some probability, right? And this probability you can think of like uh, it depends on your, it could be depends on your interest. It could be depends on the what kind of page you want to refer to. So for example, in this case, right, suppose you reach to some dead end, right? You reach to now probably some dead end. So these are dead end. Now from here, what is the possibility? Suppose you have some interest in sports, you have some interest in some interest in politics or somewhere. So you can basically teleport to the, say, I mean, so this is the dead end. So here basically from some dead end, you can teleport to the politics, or you can teleport to the sports based on the different dead end that you have. So that could be based on your interest. So for example, you can choose some parameter. So like 10% parameter. Okay, so teleportation probability is 10%, and you can divide this again. So it's not a hard number, you can change it, but based on the research, I mean, the people set it to this number. So it simulates a kind of web user going somewhere else. Like, okay, so when you reach to the dead end, you can probably jump to some random web page. And again, so that random web page you can control based on the domain of, you can, people often call it domain teleporting as well. So where you have some interest in some other kind of domain, so like sports, politics, you move to that. And accordingly, you can go to. So in a way, so now you can, after the result of teleporting, you cannot get stuck locally, right? Which was the case earlier, because you reach to dead end, you don't know anywhere else to go. So in that case, using teleporting, you cannot get stuck to the teleporting, and this will help you in the long-term rate which you want to compute, and that will again will be the page rank you'll be computing. So how do you compute this visit rate? So you can think of the Markov chains. Can you think of it as a Markov chain? Because uh, uh, think of n pages as an state, right? So you move from one state to another, right? This is exactly you do in the Markov chain. So if you simulate it like as n state as an n page, you move from one page to another, and moving probability depends on the transition probability matrix, right? Recall. So now you have the matrix P, which gives you the probability of moving from one state to another. So in our case, it will be moving from one page to another, and accordingly, based on this probability, you can keep applying the Markov chains and probably get the long-term visit rate that you are willing to have. So for example, in this case, uh, so you have suppose n state, so you have I and j values from 1 to n. So you have the entry the metric size of n by n. So where the entry pij tells that what is the probability that you move to the page j from this page I. That is, if you recall in Markov chain, what we call it, what is the probability that you move from one state I to the state j. So this is something we are willing to compute. So clearly for all I, what all the basically the I that you have, the sum should be 1, right? Because from one state, at least the overall sum will be 1, right? Because you need to move to some state. You need to move to some state. So Markov chains are basically the abstraction of the random walk. So here basically, for example, if I will ask you result of teleporting random walk from 3 slides ago as a Markov chain for in this case. How you can do so? You go this, probably go this, go that, and so on. So about the ergodic Markov chains. So for any ergodic Markov chain, there is a kind of a unique long-term visit rate for each state. So it thinks that basically it's a steady state probability distribution. So over a long period of time, we visit each state in proportion to this rate, because steady state rate is a kind of help you. Doesn't matter basically where you start with, because over the time, since you're doing the random walk, you are following the Markov chain, probably whatever the steady state probability you will get after some iteration of the random walk. So this is something you are going to have. So like in case of ergodic, so there is no periodic pattern. So teleportation basically ensure the ergodicity, since you don't want to follow the periodic pattern. So you basically update the Markov chain to the ergodic Markov chain, and accordingly you can compute the probabilities and the long-term visit rate, and that will eventually give you the page rank of the given page. So you can think of a probability row vector X, where X1, X2, Xn basically give you the probability of particular that given page, tells us where the walk is at any point. So like in this case, if this is 0001, 100, it means currently we are in state I. So if this is the state I out of the n, so this is we are in the state I. In case of web page, you can think of right now you are in the some given web page I. For example, it could be ibm.com. So more generally, the vector X, so like that you have, it means that the walk is now in state I with probability Xi, and these are the Xi probability. Again, so the sum of all these probability will be 1, right? Because it can go to any, because again, the probability sum should be 1. And this indicate that it is deterministically, at least it will move to one of the state with some given probability, like from one page to another. So be it like through teleporting, be it through the linkage analysis, the hyperlink that you have on the page. So how you can change in probability vector? So if the probability vector X is X1 to Xn at this step, then what is the next step it would be? So if you recall that the row I of the transportation probability matrix P tell us where to go from next state I, right? So if you recall the matrix that you have, the row I basically help you in telling with what probability you can move to other state or other page. So from X, the next state distribution is XP. So which is what the Venkatesh was referring earlier. So you can do the XP. So X is your probability vector, and you have basically the transposition matrix. So if you multiply, then you'll after a random walk, you can probably reach to this, and you can keep doing this, right, until you converge. And this is what we meant here. We need to reach to a steady state probability distribution, right? And you can reach to this distribution after when you complete this many times. So that is you need to reach to next state from XP, then probably XP square and XP cube and so on. So you need to keep running this and find out the power method, and it's actually the method of choice done with the sparse P. So in case of this website, the web-based page movement, they basically use the power method as we have discussed. Is like change in one quality equal proportional shall be change in the other element that you have. So how do you compute this vector? So in this case, you have basically a vector A, so where you have the steady state probabilities A1, A2, AN. So if our current position is described by A, then basically we can reach to the next distribution as AP, very similar to the previous slide as we mentioned. As you have the probability vector X, you have the matrix transposition probability matrix P. So you can reach to the next state by XP. So here very similar thing you can do by AP. So but now A is the now steady state. So since you reach to a steady state, it means, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? If you basically do the A by multiplying by the transposition matrix, it will give you the same, because you have now reached to the steady state. It is steady state, it means it is not going to probably change further, and this is, you will get it. So if this is the case, then A will be AP, and you can solve this problem, A equal to AP, and this will give you the matrix equation that give us A. So in this way, so A is here the left eigenvector for P. A is basically the left eigenvector of P, and you can solve this eigenvector problem, and accordingly this will correspond to the principal eigenvector P with the largest eigenvalue here. So these transposition matrix always have the largest eigenvalue, and after solving this, you can get this. So this is the example you can think of, one of the examples. So now you have the 6 pages, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this is the original, you can see the transposition matrix you have. So like the and you can see that the sum of each row is 1, right? Because this is the probability we were referring earlier. From this page 1, you can go to page 2 or page 3. So in this case, if you see here the page 1, it can only go to page 2 or page 3, and with the probability probably half and half. Similarly, page 2. So page 2 is, you can see, is a dead end, right? So since it is the dead end, so there is no probability which is there. So how you are going to deal with this dead end? What is the solution you are going to have? So we discuss about teleporting, right? So you need to do the teleporting. It means, so once you do the teleporting, you need to update all these 0 in such a way that again, so their sum would be 1, and you have some ways to move from page 2 to other pages, and that we will do through the teleporting. So I will show you how. You basically whatever the pages you have, so just divide it equally. So right now, suppose you have 6 pages, so just make it teleporting, very simple teleporting. So what I will do, from page 2 with equal probability, you can move to any pages. So suppose there are 6 pages, so with the probability 1 by 6, 1 by 6, 1 by 6, and so on, you can move. So this is way you can deal with the dead end pages, and accordingly you can update your transposition matrix. Once you updated your transposition matrix, since we have to reach to the steady state, right? And in order to reach to steady state, you need to solve this matrix, compute the eigenvalue and eigenvector. So in this case, you basically you have a parameter, alpha, through which you compute these values. So what you do, you try to distribute this value. So let me show you the algorithm. Yeah, so this is what exactly you do. If a row of A has no ones, then replace each element by 1 by n. So this exactly we have done. So since it has no, all values are 0, so you replace by 1 by n. So here n is 6. So divide each. So for all other rows, proceed as follows. So divide each one in A by the number of ones in its row. So thus, if there is a row with 3 ones, then each of them will be replaced by 130, and then multiply the resulting matrix by 1 minus alpha. So here and add alpha by n to every entry to make the resulting matrix to obtain P. So in this way, basically you obtain the updated P, that is the next iteration of the P, and this is the alpha and probably 1 minus alpha which I was referring. So you can update because you need to make this 0 values to non-zero values, and so that you can compute the values appropriately. And in this case, like you can see, the 1 is now further divided based on this updation. It will be 11 by 12, and then this will be 1 by 60, 1 by 60. And if you sum this again, this comes to be 1, this sums to be 1, and so on. So in this way, you keep updating this using the fixing sinks and the teleporting, and accordingly you reach to a steady state, which will give you the long-term visit rate we wanted to compute, and that will essentially give you the page rank value. So like in this case, you can see the example. So you started with, suppose you are in the vector, your current vector is 1 by 6, 1 by 6, 1 by 6, and this is the vector, this is the NP matrix we have just seen before. So you need to keep doing this until you reach to the steady state. So like in this case, you multiply this vector and the p, you reach to the xp, then xp square, then xp cube, and 4, and so on. In this way you keep doing though, and you can reach to the this steady state. So in this way, once you reach to this steady state, this give you the basically the page rank quality. So like in this case, you can see here the page rank of the page 1 is like this, that, and in this case the this is the probably the most important page, and so on.
The page rank only gives the quality of the page, or because like we aren't considering the relevance of the page, right?
So here it's not more on the relevance side, right? It's more on the quality of the page, because when we are mainly computing the page rank, we are mainly computing the page rank based on how many pages it has point to, how many pages it is pointing to, and so on. So let me show you probably the little bit details. So page rank works by counting the number and the quality of the links to a page, determine a rough estimation of how important the website is. So here right now we are not considering more on the what the query is. It's more about what quality of the paper is, what quality of the page is. So on that link assumption is that the more important website are likely to receive more links from the other website. So in this case, you can see here. So probably these are the most important pages because it has been pointed by so many pages, right? And accordingly, you can think of, so like these have less because there is not many pages pointing to them, and so on.
Okay.
So this is slightly better because probably it may have one pointing page and so on. So
So now,
accordingly,
like, we can use the value of page rank as the
yeah,
G function that you denoted
yeah.
earlier.
So it, as I said, it is just one component of the ranking function. So what you are doing, so for example, earlier you are computing the cosine similarity, right? So earlier what you're doing, you are for a given query and list of document that you have, you compute the cosine similarity, or probably BM5, BM25, and so on, right? Once you computed that score, you add this particular the page rank as well, just to give the overall score of the page. Okay, so what is the quality of the page, how relevant is that, and probably other factors, and overall score will give you the rank score for a given query.
Okay.
Okay. So the next method is hits. In the interest of time, I skip this, or probably we can cover in the next class if required. So, but the idea is very similar. The idea is very similar. The way we have computed the page rank, we can compute the hits. It is another very well-known link analysis algorithm. Probably we can cover in the next class if you want, because I believe we have 3 presentation today and we have to go for that. Any questions before we stop? Okay, so it seems not
The
that
quiz syllabus.
sorry,
The quiz syllabus.
quiz. I mean Thursday, right? I told you. So we have
The syllabus for the quiz.
syllabus I posted, right? Isn't it?
From lecture 15 to 18.
Yeah. So I believe I posted. You can check the Google Classroom. I believe I posted.
Yes, sir, you have posted.
Yeah. So lecture 15 to lectures 15 to 18. So by the way, just to recall, so the next class we will be starting from 8 a.m. So we have let me see the post. So this Thursday we have invited talk by Dr. Debanjan Mahata, and he is a research scientist at Bloomberg. And since he's in US, 9 a.m. will be too late for him. So again, so 8 a.m. still late, but he's kindly agreed to take 8 a.m. So on Thursday we'll be starting our class at 8 a.m. Please join that. So please note that. So the topics covered, this will be also with a part of examination, which is because this is also very relevant as part of the information retrieval, searching, and so on. So the topic is learning to identify key phrases from the text. So please join this, and we'll be having quiz after his talk and the presentation after that. So who will be presenting today?
So group
Oh,
21.
we have to present.
Nishkarsh?
Sir, Meenakshi will be presenting. Meenakshi
Yes,
Das.
sir.
Meenakshi Das?
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Okay, so Meenakshi, please share your screen. And meanwhile, who is the next group?
Sir,
Sankalp?
yes.
Okay, so Sankalp, you can go next. So please, I request, so please don't take more than 10 minutes. Otherwise, I will have to stop. I will have to do hard stop, and you will have to stop your presentation. So in the interest of time, please stop presenting. Not, so complete your presentation in less than 10 minutes. So who's the third group?
So we are presenting.
Vandana? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Vandana, you can go next after that. Okay, so please start,
Yes.
Meenakshi.
Yeah. Shiva, can you start?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, all of you. I am Shiva from Group 21, and we are here to present controversy diffuser. Next. Nowadays, lots of controversies are getting created and resolved. Then, how would a user would know which he needs to support, and or how would we enable the user to take more informed decision? So this is becoming a big problem. People tend to find what they are looking for. Then they will be more inclined towards it, whether it is for or it is against. Or if we say people will get persuaded by the blogs or website to believe without checking all the facts on that topic. It is important for any democracy to flourish because publishing material about a uh, controversial issue is of paramount importance to a functioning democracy, as it allows disagreement to be heard in public. Or it is easy for a user to cherry pick from the results towards which they are inclined to. For example, take the gun right. If a user is in the support, then they will refer for the Second Amendment in US, or if they are in the against, then they will refer the crises that happen in the school. Or user may also get misled because uh, because there are, if we talk, for example, if we talk about the ISIS treatment, so there are always few blogs describing that the therapy for the cancer will always cure. Or also at the same time, by the Quackwatch or American Cancer Society, it is listed unproven. Next.
Yeah, so we have existing systems. We have broadly discussed existing systems in three categories, for such as controversies detection in Wikipedia, controversies on the web, and sentiment analysis based controversy systems. Next. Starting with controversy in Wikipedia. For controversies detection in Wikipedia, most of the existing system uses metadata features such as length of the top page, proportion of anonymous editors, and certain types of edits such as reverse for controversy detections without considering sentiment and opinions. Further, most of the work have used manual tagging as an oracle. Wikipedia pages which are manually tagged for as controversial are a very valuable resource, but using the manual tags alone can be problematic due to inconsistency and sparseness of tagging. Coming to the controversy on the web, Outside of Wikipedia, targeted domains like Twitter and news are mostly limited to politics and politicians. Some works like Debatepedia assumes debate to have already occurred and mostly focuses on political issues. Another tool known as Dispute Finder was focused on manually added or bootstrapped fact disputes. There's a currently running project, Myrado, which is versatile in most of the domain, but its implementation is only focused on finding nearest neighbors by matching web pages in Wikipedia. There has been work on sentiment analysis. So some work use sentiment analysis as a step towards detecting various opinions and potentially controversy. But sentiment alone may not suffice for detecting controversies. Because as recognizing things like sarcasm, jokes, exaggerations becomes difficult. So our proposed methodology will be discussed by Nishkarsh.
So how do we overcome these limitations? So we shall provide a search engine and a plugin based solution. Now the user will be able to search for their queries search for a query. For example, let's say the Sushant Singh case, right? So based on that query, we will be first of all analyzing based on the top research, top searches, top let's say 10 or 50 top searches, that is the query that has been searched, is it controversial, is it related to a controversial topic. We will be enabling the user to go for a more fact-based by categorizing the web pages as positive, negative, and neutral. So similarly, the search engine or plugin will allow us to analyze the user's query and for top searches, and after we have segregated them, we can go we can discuss about the features that we will be given. Next.
Yeah, so the features of our proposed model are divided into 4 modules. Like the first will be matching query, in which input will be taken by the input will be taken from the user, and then it will be matched to the available Wikipedia articles and other blogs. Using KNN, we shall retrieve the top 10 articles from the query given. The controversy scores generation, second module. Now we shall use ranking order so that we can get particular scores on whether the article is controversial or not, using some strong words or bold words. Alternatively, we shall be also using sentimental analysis as the weightage for scoring. Voting and classify. A voting scheme is applied to the scores that are collected, and classifier is applied to turn it into a complete binary decision, that is controversial or non-controversial. Then the outcome will be displayed to the user. So in the first step, as we told, we are going to use KNN because this classifier helps us in mapping user query to the Wikipedia articles or web pages related to it. It's a very simple logic here applied. That is Wikipedia articles that we manually tag as told by Kanu, that if it's controversial, then obviously the articles, the blogs that refer to Wikipedia articles will also be controversial. So now the question is, why do researchers only go for Wikipedia pages as the baseline? Just because due to the availability of rich metadata, manual tagging, and edit history on Wikipedia articles. So we shall, as in the voting and classification, I told, we shall check if the positive category, there are more number of articles in the positive category and negative category, then we shall, if it is there in negative category, then we shall categorize it as controversial. This will be our preliminary outcome of the binary decision. The final prediction, we are using classifier so that the outcome will be more accurate and improve the efficacy of the system. The novelty, so here we have, we shall try to use the sentiment analysis for scoring and controversy detection, then enabling the user to take more informed decision by taking into account all type of views like the positive category, negative, and neutral. then giving a plugin based solution to increase the reachability.
Now, based on the novelty, the novelty that we are giving cannot be achieved in all at once. So we have divided our project into a short-term feasible project and a long-term feasible project. In our short-term feasible project, since we know that the data is sparse, and since the data is sparse, so for verification of the automated classifications, so we will be going for the KNN model as our preferred approach. And for short term, this will make our short term goals reachable. Using the sentiment analysis and the term frequency of bold words will also give us the nearest Wikipedia article for the nearest neighbor. We will be taking in scope publicly available web pages as of now, like news, blogs, debate.org databases, or procon.org. In our long-term feasibility, since the data for verifying the automated classification, it will again be sparse, and since the controversies are very dynamic, some are very short, some are short, some abruptly come out from some news articles, some get resolved, and some controversies last a long time. For example, the NASA's first man on the moon, it's still out there. For this won't make our long-term project feasible. So what we will be doing some data collection or for the future work to be enabled, and so that we don't just use the KNN method, but we can also use other methods for better controversy detection. This will make our model more feasible. In conclusion, I'll be summarizing that the controversy detection will be done based on search engine and plugin. The plugins will allow the user to use their favorite search engines with our added benefits. And using the KNN model shall retrieve the top searches, and sentiment analysis we shall give us some weightage in the scoring. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Okay, so thanks Niskars and team. So next group, please start your presentation. Meanwhile, we can ask question in the chat to the current group.
Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are group 10 and we are presenting on the topic judging novelty made easy. So first of all, I would like to present some facts for you. So a paper published in the ENAS journal, it showed that half the research scientists drop out after like 5 years of starting. So in recent times, and in early 1960s, this dropout rate was 35 years for half of the scientists. And the number of scientists working as temporary workforce, like lab technicians or research assistants, has increased from 25% to 60%, like from 1960s to 2010. And the career advancement for research scientists has it increasingly has been dependent on publish or perish. Like if you aren't like getting many publications, so you won't like succeed in the field. So an exhaustive before carrying out any research topic, so an exhaustive study of published material needs to be done. So our major problem is that we need to find a finding a novel research topic. For finding any novel research topic, an exhaustive study of published material needs to be done. So it is not an easy task because a lot of research is published in all of domains, like millions of articles are published each year. So, and if the idea is not novel at the end, so it leads to like wastage of time or funding or whatever is devoted to the research. So we have a clip from Big Bang Theory, which reinforces our motivation. So a little context behind the clip. So, so like in this clip, these are two scientists, Sheldon and Amy. They have thought of proposing super asymmetry, and they do the literature review at the end, and they find out that there is a paper already which disproves super asymmetry.
Yeah, I need to.
Kindly confirm if audio is if you are able to hear the audio.
Talk to both of you about your paper.
Yes.
Oh, right. How are the citations coming? Well, Raj and I were chasing them down like you asked us to, and we came across a Russian paper that seems to disprove superasymmetry. Are you sure? Yeah. Howard translated it. So sorry.
Sheldon, are you all right?
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you for telling us, Leonard. I'm sure that wasn't easy. I guess we don't need this anymore.
Yeah, so that is the reaction after, that is a major problem statement. So
Yeah, I need to talk to both of you.
yeah, so now, as we have shown, like finding the novelty aspect is, it requires a lot of time. So we propose a system for budding researchers, like that can act as a one-stop solution for finding, for helping them to find an area to explore, and like it shows the degree of uniqueness in the idea and the level of coincidence with the existing works and conferences and existing works. And it can also show the conferences that can be targeted in the very ideation phase of research. So it will lead to a lot of like it will save a lot of researchers' time and efforts. Novelty here we define. So novelty, it is very important to define the novelty aspect of research. So we define it as like a proposal of a new technique, algorithm, or disproving of what is already known, or betterment of results performance from any existing technique.
So the existing systems which are already in place, like the traditional method is we search our idea with key terms on any web search system like Google, Yahoo, and all, and these give us the rank-based result with keyword matching. And the one more another is Google Scholar search engine, which does the same as Google search, but it's specific to research area publications or books and anything related writing related research. And they in Google Scholar the rank is based on searches, published conferences, author designation, and number of citations for that paper. And similarly, there is another archive database which contains unpublished papers, so we can go through those as well when doing our literature review. Next. And another search engine is Omnity, which came in recently in 2016. This does the work similar to Google Scholar, but it is also multilingual, allows context-based search using semantic mapping. So it claims to be better than Google Scholar. So this is one. And there's also, when we doing our and there's also plagiarism checker, but it comes at the end, like after all the work is done, then we can use plagiarism checker to see how similar our paper is to other papers and all. But the problem with this is this comes after all the work is already done. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So the limitation of the existing system is like for the plagiarism checker, it's useful when all the work is done, and and we are checking after the work. But our main problem lies in the very initial phase of starting a project, and it's not helpful in that phase. And for all the web searching tools, um, these tools are helpful when we are doing a literature survey. But when on the stage of just idea formulation, when we just want to know how novel our idea is, to even go further with the idea or not, this is not very helpful. I mean, it helps, but we have to do a lot of manual going through the papers and figuring out if it's helpful or not. So, and our suggested system gives you the degree of novelty in the starting as well. Next.
Moving on to the system that we propose. So essentially, there are two aspects. One is that we will let the user explore trending fields or new areas that he has interest in, so he can check out which areas are trending and he can follow research on, or any new areas that he himself can explore to give out a new heads out on the research. So he enters an area of interest and gets a list of trending areas. Let's say he says predicting, I'm interested in predicting and healing stress. So some trending areas are stress prediction using KNN, random forest, and some unexplored areas can be using Thompson sampling for stress prediction. This is one wherein the user does not know which idea to work on and wants the system to give an idea. This next aspect on the next slide is highlighting the novelty in one's research. So once I have an idea, in the very beginning or ideation phase, it's not once my research is over, but at the very beginning, if I want to figure out should I go ahead with this idea or not, then the system can let you know what is the degree of novelty in your idea. So in the very ideation phase, you get to know what kind of novel aspects do you have, what is the percentage novelty, how much is it coinciding with the existing literature. Not only does it output the existing literature, but also highlights what areas are novel in your aspect. So given a summary or an abstract of your idea taken into this as an input to the system will let you know what are the existing references highlighting what percentage and what particular aspect of your idea is coinciding with what literature, and then what aspects of your abstract are novel. Let's say the entire algorithm is unique, or is it the first time that the task is being solved, or the combination of this task and the algorithm is unique. That is, this algorithm has been used to solve this particular task. Also, the system highlights the conferences that are relevant to this domain and can be targeted later for the given work, and it highlights the state of the art in the given domain. Next slide shows us the system in action. So if you're confused about your novelty at the very beginning, like we in fact faced this issue. We had jotted down 6 to 7 ideas to work on for this presentation, but we faced an issue that what percentage of it has already been existed. So we had to go manually through all the websites, but a system which can be acted as a one-stop solution for this can be really helpful in the very beginning. So you add a summary and then it highlights what percentage of it is unique, what are the target conferences, A star, A conferences, state of the art, novelty and existing work. The next slide shows some methodology that we introduced. One is like the text summarizers. So
please wrap up in 2 minutes. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So one is like the text summarizers. Given your abstract and the entire literature that is available, it will just summarize all the highlighting points so that it is easy for the system to figure out what are the key areas that you want to focus and what are the key areas that are already available out there, and then matches how much of it is similar. The other thing is, here the difference is we don't want to do a simple text matching, but we need to extract out your entire idea and the end-to-end pipeline that you need to work on. So a graph model wherein each of the node can represent the task that you need to solve, and the relationships, the edges can show what kind of algorithms that the sequence of steps that you plan to incorporate to solve this particular task can be really helpful in extracting out the entire end-to-end pipeline. Then we apply similarity measures on the graphs instead of simple text matching, which usually paraphrasing tools, these plagiarism detection tools cannot do.
Okay, so as Gartner Hype Cycle provides information regarding the potential and maturity of technology over time. For example, the augmented reality has evolution period of 5 to 10 years, and autonomous driving has evolution period of 10 years, more than 10 years. So our system will provide the users trending areas and unexplored areas using tools like Gartner Hype Cycle. Next. next, the novelty of our system. So our system acts as a one-stop solution for the problem finding for research areas and the novelty in the research, as like already discussed by Akshita. So it is the first time that that we are proposing a solution that is highlighting the aspects in the ideation phase itself, the part of which it is novel and which part is already being done. And we are also provide with the user with the percentage of uniqueness its idea, and we will highlight the state of the art, though if it is crossing the threshold, and the conferences which are relevant in the proposed idea. Next is the feasibility. So in the short term, we were thinking of creating a system that will do the in-depth analysis of the existing papers and express how novel and unique the idea is. In the midterm, we can incorporate different languages, suggest the different research areas that has active research going on using the intuition from Gartner Hype Cycle. In the long term, we will not only just include the research papers, but also but also check novelty in the novel plots, movie plots, play scripts, and poems. To extend it to multiple domains, we need vast data sets. That's why this thing goes in the long term. Next. Thank you and if you have any questions.
So thanks Akshita and everyone. Okay, so next room, please share your presentation and please ask question in the chat box.
So is this visible?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Avnish, will you continue?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My project partners and I are going to present the idea libretto. So, what is libretto? It is basically lyrics of a song or a poem. In this, we are going to talk some idea using which a Hindi lyrics or poetry can be translated to more accurate in English language. Next slide, please. Till now, we have translator which converts the Hindi sentence to English sentence word-wise. It doesn't consider underlying meaning while translation. That's why it is not able to translate accurately. So, for example, if we took few starting lines of these lyrics, to najm najm sa mere hoton pe teher ja, so its Google translations are, you stay close to my lips, which is not correct translation. It is more accurate translations are stay with me like hum on my lips. Next, please. So, what's our other problem? In this, we can see that Nana is converted to maternal grandfather, which is a absolutely wrong translation. So, next slide. So now motivation behind this idea, first one is reducing communication barrier. So if we have such model that converts from the source language to target language accurately, then it will able to help to communicate between users of both language with less difficulties. So it is helps to reduce communication barrier. So for user convenience, so if users are able to communicate without difficulties with other language users, then it will easily improve user convenience. It also helps while reading others literature. It also helps to increase reach of artists, means it will help local artists to reach out other language reader by his or her creation. And it also help in exploring other languages, because every language follows some grammars. Then using the knowledge of this idea, we will try to also explore the other language translation also. It also increase cross cultural communication, because if there are reduced communication barrier, then it will be easy to understand the other's culture. We also tries to improve the accuracy of already existed translation. Next slide. So now I will hand over to Prakriti.
Hello. Now in our idea, what we are presenting is that how to convert our Hindi song lyrics into its meaningful translation to English language. For that, we already know that translation of Hindi words with their meaning is more difficult as compared to other language translation. And we have researched that earlier there are few models that are already been created for this translation, such as first one is maximum entropy based segmentation model. In this model, what they are doing is that taking a sentence, it split it into segment and then translate it. It also use phrase extraction model. inside it only. Second one, second model is a Morophone based model. In this, it is using decoding technique and also using bird based re-ranking model. And another model is PSMT model. And one more method that we found very interesting in this is WSD method. WSD is word sense disambiguation. It means that we are trying to find the meaning of a word in a particular phrase or a sentence. Because in Hindi, there is a possibility, or Hindi or in other language, that the same word have different meaning in different phrases. So, and PSMT method, phrase statistical machine translation. In this, we are dividing the whole input into phrases, and which is using Hindi WordNet method for training the model. For that, our model, we are using the WSD method and PSMT model, and then combine their method using appropriate pre-processing to create a new model. Next slide, please. Yeah. Our proposed idea is that take our input and then do the required pre-processing, such as remove the extra space or other, and then pass it to the training model, which is using our WSD method and Hindi WordNet method, also using one language model, that the language which we are going to convert it in, and train the our model. Using that, it is extracting the phrase from our input, and with that, using decoding method, it is producing the output. Now I will pass it to Vanna for more detail of process.
So as we discussed, processes, the idea, now we have to propose that processes that idea. So the steps we are involved, that is first pre-processing. This will focus in solving Hindi poem. Hindi poem include two types of problems. First is space inclusion and second is space deletion. We will expel the extra spaces from the context. As we know, Hindi is a Unicode support language, means content cannot handle by the ASCII code. So now tokenizer, so we have to convert the data into UTF format. Next, tokenizing the data is very important. So tokenizer will divide the poem into segments by sequence of words. Here is an example of tokenization. मैंने एक मिथ से कहा. So tokenizer will tokenize into मैंने एक myth से कहा, मतलब it will divide into tokens. Now word alignment. This is the second step after pre-processing the word. We will use GIZA++ implementation of IBM model used for word alignment process. And this tool will run in both directions, source to target and target to source. As we mentioned, that IBM model evaluates the word-to-word probability of word-to-word alignment for all the source and target word for the given sentences, as it will checking every possibility. So this is a very time-taking task. Phrase table creation. Once the phrase are extracted, they are ordered in biphrases. S and T as a source and T is target, along with alignment. This will not end here. This will continue next step also. Integration of WSD with SMT. We will understand this with an example. Like sentence one is Raju के पास एक महंगा कलम है. The next sentence is नाई ने कलम को काटा. Both of these sentences have the same word, kalam, but both has different meaning. So there are many words that sound similar, but their meanings varied based on the sentences. Therefore, the WSD word sense disambiguation, as Prakriti explained, is integrated with SMT. So how we can recognize the meaning of the word? So we use LESS algorithm. It is proposed by Michael E. Less in 1986. Hindi WordNet and LESS algorithm is used to sense unambiguous. What is Hindi WordNet? Hindi WordNet is a database with a collection of nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. LESS algorithm will help us to figure out the exact meaning of word in a sentence. If we take an example of kalam is search on WordNet. The sense of word are found out. The sense will the sense which will maximum overlap will be output of the algorithm. So in the above example, Raju के पास एक महंगा कलम है means that the person named Raju has costly pen. The word are searched into the Hindi wordnet. The word kalam have a different meaning in the wordnet. Here in our example, the meaning of kalam is pen. So once the unambiguous is identified, the phrase table is generated. Now I will hand over to Chetan.
So for the sake of visibility, we have divided our goal into three parts: short term, mid term, and long term. In short term, will the above algorithm mentioned will be implemented mostly in Python, and further will do Pythonization for improving the efficiency. And in the Hindi phrase analysis, there are various phrase and idioms in Hindi like muhavres and lakokti. For example, a very famous lakokti is "Ghar ka vedi lanka dhaye." That is, it refers to the epic Ramayana, in which the Vibhishan, because of Vibhishan, the entire clan of Ravana gets killed. Next, and in our midterm goal, as the above proposed methodology is only for the poetry, we will try to modify it into more even shairis, as it is a small poetry and songs. And after that, creating a API for the music app, through which we can take the input as Hindi literature and give a proper output. I'll hand over to Nidhi.
Yeah, as discussed above, in the short term and the mid-term goal, we are currently proposing the idea for only the textual data, that is the song or poem text. We can further extend this to accommodate the audio data of the song or poem. To achieve this, we would make it a two-step pipeline. Like in first step, we can do the audio of the song would be converted into Hindi text using automatic speech recognition system, such as the speech-to-text system powered by Google CI technologies. Secondly, we can do the Hindi text would further be translated to English from the above mentioned model. We could also extend this to accommodate multilingual system, which can be done by adding a step to the above pipeline. That is, after getting the English text, we can convert it into the any other language simply by using some translation APIs such as the Google Translate. Next, any questions?
So thanks. Any questions from students? Okay, so I mean, what do you think? Is it going to work on all kind of poems, or is it going to be probably specific to some kind of poems? Or
So probably we are thinking that the poem which is lengthy enough it might work, because NLP model favors most the larger textual sizes.
Yes, sir. It will favor more in that, and because the phrase creation is much easier as compared to create it in a short length poem or short word poems.
okay, and what are the other limitations?
The current limitation is like that. As far as I have searched, that the methods which we are using separately, they are not giving too much accuracy, but there are chances that when we combine those methods, that they will give more accuracy, like nearby 80% or 90%. None of the model is giving currently such much accuracy. We can't confirm that it will give complete accuracy, but there is chances it will give more accuracy.
Okay, so thanks. Any other questions from others? If not, please join the call 8 a.m. day after tomorrow. And thanks. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
धन्यवाद सर.
धन्यवाद सर.